couple of years into it, it had all paid off, and I really hit this spiritual high. I guess they call it nirvana or bliss, and I really did.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Raw Synergy TV. I am super excited today because I am talking with Daniel. He's been vegan for 20 years and he's been raw vegan for probably around 18 years now. And he is an amazing artist. He is truly a food artist and he makes the most amazing raw vegan creations I think I've ever seen. His food looks so good, and he has recreated just about every single food in the standard American diet and created a raw vegan version that will absolutely knock your socks off. So I'm so excited to be talking to him today, and I can't wait to learn more about his journey. Hey, Dan, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I'm really excited to chat with you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm super curious to find out about your raw vegan journey. Like, how did you get into raw food?
Well, I had already been vegan for a couple of years, so I was doing the vegan thing for a while, and I just ended up in a town or a city that had a raw cafe, and it was recommended to me. And being vegan, I was already pretty happy being vegan. I'd kind of gone from the standard American diet to vegan and cut out some gluten. So I was feeling pretty good already. And then I just found the raw vegan diet basically by going to this restaurant. And coincidentally, my wisdom teeth were cutting in, so I had sort of some issues there, and I was getting an infection, so it was starting to hurt. So the raw food, within probably the first 20 minutes of me eating the meal, I wasn't even finished the meal. The pain had gone away. I was in such a good mood, started such a good conversation with all the other people sitting at this little cafe. And it was really awesome. And this cafe was just so cute and so beautiful and amazing. It was in a fruit and vegetable produce store that was completely vegan with a little counter. It was like a raw food counter and kind of like a parlor style old 50s kind of bar or whatever. It was just really fun. The guy who owned it was really cool. And yeah, so it took my wisdom tooth pain away. And I was like, well, I'm just going to only eat at this place or other raw places. And I just ended up wandering around in that neighborhood, going to all these different raw places and kind of having a little raw food vacation, kind of without planning it though. It just kind of happened. I had one friend during one conversation bring up raw food, and she was just basically telling me, yeah, people are eating raw food now, and I didn't really know what she meant. I was like, what do you mean, like apples and carrots? She's like, oh no, like, people are doing only raw food and curing diseases and reversing terminal illnesses. And I was just kind of like, oh, okay. And then yeah, it was a few months later that I ended up eating at this restaurant and just getting completely blown away by how good the food was. I think the first thing I had was raw pizza. My first raw vegan meal was raw pizza. Really good, well made raw pizza. And they had a few other things on the menu. They had an Alfredo, they had some really nice breakfast cookies, these sugar free breakfast cookies that I love. Um, I can't remember everything on the menu. It was a long time ago, but the food was so good. And I remember the next day in the morning, I looked in the mirror and my eyes were so bright. The white around them was just glowing, and I could just tell my body was very happy. and you can see it in the eyes, especially with raw food. And I think that's what a lot of raw foodists notice, or people who have dabbled in raw foods notice, that the eyes brighten up, and you just feel good. I'm sure most of us have probably had a similar experience, because we keep doing it. And yeah, it's just awesome. It lit me up, and I was just charged. And I went from having this miserable toothache, wisdom tooth, pesky wisdom tooth cutting through, and to just being happy and feeling great and being able to do my thing and skateboard. My friends and I, we'd gone out to the west coast of Canada. We were in Vancouver on a skateboarding trip. We just said, what the heck, let's drive out and skateboard and visit friends. But yeah, that's what we were doing. And that was basically how I got introduced to raw food. And it felt so good that by the time I got back home, my friends and I were all just really curious about raw food, and we were just super excited. And we were like, "Yeah, let's do this. We're doing this now." So we went out and got a paperback book, or no, it was a hardcover, and it was Giuliano. I forget what the title of the book was, but the author is Giuliano. And it was a good book. There's some pretty wild recipes, and it kind of opened my mind up because he was doing things in such an unconventional, wacky manner. And it was then and there that I just kind of realized, oh, you can just put anything on there. So um, we started doing recipes out of that book and getting into other books. But I think that the key is that my friends and I got together and started doing it on, I think we had 1 or 2 nights a week that we'd do it. So we were like, okay, this night's raw vegan night, and we're not complete raw chefs now, but if we do one recipe a week, and kind of we all did it together, and it was fun. We kind of made like a little night, a little event of it. And yeah, we were doing raw food and then cooked food the other nights, and then trying to be, like mostly raw, or at least half raw. I think in the beginning, in that beginning year, we were like, okay, let's just focus on cutting out, gluten and certain ingredients that we don't like. And I think, I think most of us, you know, we've all read packages and been like, oh, that's such a good ingredient. That's such a good ingredient, but I don't like that one. So we kind of made it a mission to take all of the foods we like that still have something that we probably shouldn't have in it, ingredient wise, and then just cutting that ingredient out, and then just really brainstorming for what we can put in. And I do it all the time. I'm just like, what can I put in this, or how can I make this better? So that was basically how I got into it.
That's amazing. And I love that all your friends wanted to do it with you. So,
Yeah, well, I had some really good friends kind of take me under their wing. They basically taught me how to cook vegan. My friend Trav, and my other friend Jody, they're really big influences, and they taught me how to do it proper and spice everything perfectly. And they were total foodies, you
wow.
know, raw curious, cooked foodies, kind of going gluten free is basically what we were. And then it just evolved into, you know, what it is now. So
That's so cool. Yeah, because so many people who start this lifestyle, they struggle because no one around them is eating this way. Not their family, not their friends. Everyone thinks they're crazy. So I think that is just incredible that you had that support and that guidance. I love that.
yeah, it is really so important. And I've been trying to piece that back together, and successfully, actually. But people move away, people get married, so I don't have quite as big of a vegan crew as I did back then.
Yeah.
Um, but I've reconnected with a few of the people from that time that basically, and it's been awesome, you know. So we've
I
been
love
doing
it.
a raw food picnic thing. So my friend Trav and I, and he's got kids now, so we've been getting some of our friends together and just walking some of the trails here in Banff National Park and bringing foods. We hang out here and we have this little party where we make crazy good raw food, and it brings back old times. It's really good. We've been doing this all the past winter, so we'll even go up in -40 on the most freezing cold days. But we'll have our snacks or whatever. We'll usually crush like a big salad, and before that we'll have gorge on fruit, and then maybe kind of eat some of the heavier snacks when we're all the way at the top of the mountain or something. But
Wow, that sounds
yeah, it's
amazing.
what we've been doing. Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice. It's you gotta live while you can, right? And it's
Exactly.
those real life intimate moments that really count, you know, because Instagram's fun, but it really can consume our world,
Hmm.
and nice to sometimes leave your phone at home and just go do something with your friends. It
Definitely.
reminds me of where I got on the internet, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely so good to get out into nature too and to connect that way with people that you really like and good food. I think there's nothing better than that.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to promote that and I try to share that with my message on social media. I don't have a YouTube channel yet. I'm going to get one right away. As soon as I have a few projects I'm working on, but I don't want to start my YouTube channel up because I don't want it to kind of derail all these other things I'm working on.
Right.
But it's got to happen because I do lots of fun things like snowboarding and actually ride a little. It's a miniature skateboard for the snow. You might have seen them down in California.
Okay.
There's a few people down there who ride them, but
I
it's
haven't seen
I
them.
basically here I'll show you. I always end up showing this thing to everybody on on an interview at least once. It's this little skateboard thing. Got a little cool vegan sticker on it. But yeah, these skateboard things, I pretty much go at least every weekend,
Wow.
depending on my on my work schedule. Some years I'm lucky enough to go, a couple days a week, like 3, 4 days a week. But
Nice.
yeah, that's what I do for exercise in the winter, and that's kind of how I stay raw in the winter. That might have been one of your upcoming questions, but um, yeah, I just try to stay active, and I ride my snowboard, skateboard thing a lot in the winter, and it's very, very cold up here. It's it's brutal, the temperature up here,
Wow.
but it's really, really fun too. Like it's really magical, and it doesn't. There's a certain kind of energy that fills the air that you only get when it's really freezing cold.
Yeah.
Certain types of fruits that only form on the trees, and
Mm.
it's I don't know, it's really special to me. Winter's really special. I've grown up in a cold climate my entire life, so I've got good memories attached to every season. So
Mm.
even fall, which I used to hate because it's like back to school time or whatever, I can I can actually appreciate it now. So
Did you ever go through any kind of detox in the beginning of your raw vegan journey? Did you have any kind of symptoms or anything that were out of the ordinary for you?
that's a really good question. I think I became raw vegan so slowly, and I had such a smooth and comfortable and like welcoming and nurturing transition into it that I I didn't get the full on Herxheimer response, was I think kind of what most people are referring to when they get those detox events.
Right.
So I'm really lucky in that sense because I went from a pretty poor standard American food diet, pretty young, pretty fresh out of the house, just kind of eating garbage food, to learning about vegan food and having a couple vegan friends around and eating with them and just being there. They're like, hey, try it, like, hey, I'm making this. What do you think? And lo and behold, I really liked it, right?
Yeah. Did you have any kind of like skin issues or acne or anything when you were at that around that
Sure.
time?
Yeah. I grew up with acne, and I noticed, yeah, it did kind of flare up a bit as I was kind of starting to eat cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. But beforehand, my acne was pretty bad. I had
Oh,
really
wow.
bad acne, and now like it's gone away, and my skin's like become pretty normal. So
Great.
it's and now that's a big sign. What are some of the other signs that just veganism was good, aside from the fact that I wanted to do it and I like the idea of, I've always loved animals, like
Yeah.
always loved animals. Even before I was vegan, it would bum me out if I saw, animal cruelty or rodeos and things like that, or always just got like, what are you doing riding
Mm-hmm.
around on a, like what for?
Right.
So I think when some of my friends were vegan and kind of sharing the food with me, that just it just kind of naturally went together, and I just um at some certain point made the decision, and I felt good when I made the decision too. I wasn't eating a meal, I wasn't getting nourished from the food. It was a big long 8-hour stretch that I was on a road trip that I wasn't eating, and I just made the decision, watching the prairie go by. I was just like, okay, I'm vegan now. And I felt it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely something in the ethics, and there's definitely something in the vision. Like the ethical thing, it's a big part of it. For me, it really is. And even like I might not preach it, maybe even enough on my account or on social media, but it really is that it's a really, really important part of the raw food journey for me.
Me too. I agree.
Yeah, I think that's why I felt that immediate lift upon making the decision. It was cool. It was just that good feeling. We all get it, right? You do a
Yes.
good thing and you get a little warm glow. I got that, and that was kind of just extra confirmation that this is, and that never went away. It's never gone away. It's still there. There's been ups and downs. I think like we all have ups and downs,
Mm-hmm.
and being raw vegan doesn't make you permanently happy through every single situation,
Right.
but it sure helps, and it's sure been a blessing. And just all the other things, just good things that I started doing around the time I became vegan, like qigong and tai chi. One of my vegan friends that helped me become vegan was really, really into studying Shaolin qigong and tai chi and wushu, and
Mm.
so he really got me into that. Mostly because I already skateboarded, so he's like, "Oh, you're skateboarding. It's kind of like what we're doing." And I just started learning a bit and taking that up, and started going into the drop-in class, the Shaolin drop-in class, which was really good. So I got really into that for a while, and it's been a long time. I don't really train anymore, but I'll try to do it a couple times a week, just because it is such a beautiful art form, and it's kind of a rare style too. So not many people would even get shown it, so I don't want to waste it. And then my friend that I was learning that from and learning that with, he's the guy that we go on picnics with, and then he learns from this guy that's from Singapore. So he's certified by the Shaolin Temple, and we're pretty lucky to have him, really. But
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So that was a big thing for me when I became vegan. And I just think like practicing the qigong, because it's so beneficial. that kind of went together with the vegan lifestyle. And yeah, I was just active, like really active, especially after becoming raw. And I think I was my mid 20s when I became like was actually raw.
And how has your spiritual connection, because that those practices are, I think they're pretty spiritual. And then also for me, like the whole spiritual aspect of raw food, you just feel so connected to everything, like you were saying, with the animals and everything. Did you find that your spiritual connection just up leveled as well?
Yeah, I pretty much felt like I was telepathic with animals for, a couple of years after. And yeah, the Tai Chi was really good and the Qigong. And then on top of that, I think maybe a year into it, a girl that I was dating had brought me to the Kundalini yoga class. So I was doing Shaolin, Qigong, and Kundalini. And then
Wow.
coincidentally, they were almost identical in form. Some of the practices, some of the poses in Kundalini yoga and breaths and postures were exactly the same. It's like
Wow.
that's the exact same thing. But Bodhidharma, who brought Shaolin to China, is from India. He came there
Hmm.
from India to teach them all that. So it's pretty interesting. But yeah, the Kundalini yoga was it really woke me up too, and it opened channels in my body that correlate with your mind and your personality. And then I had went through this really high time, this really really high time, and had some profound experiences,
Oh, I would
just
love to hear if
with
you're open to sharing about any of the profound experiences.
yeah, at a certain point I had really basically just becoming raw, really really working on myself and my being, and just really really taking care of myself. A couple years into it, it had all paid off, and I really really hit this spiritual high around the time, kind of coincidentally, as was breaking up with that girl that ended up bringing me to the yoga class. But I think there's something to do with that there, where I was free, 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 and then the yoga and the qigong and the vegan lifestyle, and I was off garlic and onions and leeks, shallots, and chives that whole time. I've just started that up this year because it's fun and tasty, and it's another flavor I can play with. But
Yeah.
for years, for meditation purposes, I didn't eat any of that stuff. Now I do, but yeah, I hit that real, I guess they call it nirvana or bliss, and I really did. And a lot of the things that were bothering me and holding me back in life just kind of poof, just went, you know, just dropped, right? And then there's those meditations in yoga too, right? Where you're literally dropping the negative energy. I mean, that helps, right? The mind's powerful and the spirit's powerful and our psyche's powerful, and we do those things. It's helpful. So yeah, that happened. I moved out of town. I was living in Calgary, Alberta, which is kind of like your average city of about 1.5 million people, and right next to the Rockies here. And I moved out into the mountains, into a small town, um, really cool small town, basically just full of hippies and full of people, just rootsy people who like to live in the rainforest on a lake and do their thing, like raising beautiful kids and, like just having a great time. The produce was awesome out there too. There's fruit trees there. It's a little warmer than here, so we're really high up and a little farther north. So when I say it's freezing here, I'm not joking. It's freezing here. We had a
How
really
cold
nice
does it get? Like what's the lowest temperature?
we had -40 this year,
Whoa.
and that's about -40, and that's Fahrenheit or Celsius. because the scales, when you get that cold, number equalizes out at
Mm,
minus 40. So,
wow.
yeah, which is really weird. I was mind blown when I found that out. I was like, what? Minus 40 Celsius is minus 40 Fahrenheit? But yeah, we get negative 40 Fahrenheit here, and I mean, it sucks, but it kind of doesn't because it's kind of fun. I mean, I'm a winter person, so the day that I see the first snowflake falling, I get I get joy, like I get bliss.
Oh,
Like I pull my snow skates out and I start like standing on them on the carpet and like pretending that I'm going down the hill.
that's great.
Yeah, it's nice too. You can smell that. You can smell the snow in the air too when it starts coming down. So it's really nice. It's a really nice environment here. Well, it's a national park. It's absolutely stunning, gorgeous.
Wow, that's
Reason they
beautiful.
closed it up.
What do you eat when it's negative 40? Like, take me through a typical day of food during the winter for you.
In the daytime, I will eat a lot of fruit. Um, Sometimes I'll make a smoothie before I go to the ski hill or work or whatever. But basically, while I'm moving, if I'm working or on the ski hill, I just eat fruit, like lots of it. Mostly bananas, really, in the daytime.
Mhm.
I eat a bag of kiwis. I think I had an empty bag, so I want to show you how big the bag of kiwis that I eat. But yeah, I eat like a big bag of kiwis, like between 8 and 10 kiwis in a bag. Usually I'll eat that before the bananas because I think it's just like the citrus in the fruit. I think it and how watery it is. I like it
Yeah.
moving through my limbs early in the morning and it kind of wakes me up. I think that's important. And then on the hill or at work, if I get hungry, I'll just start eating bananas. And then sometimes I'll have a kombucha. And then when I get home, I'll usually eat like a really, really big bowl of salad. Like the bowl that I've been using lately is like this one and
Oh,
just
nice.
completely full, so full.
Yeah.
And every kind of like every well, just as many vegetables as I can. And I'm making these different colored salad dressings. So I'm doing a unicorn salad dressing. So I'm going to put out a new series of salad recipes, just because I
Nice.
show like so much gourmet food, and the stuff I've been making is low. Like I've cut out so much fat out of all my recipes compared to how I was doing all that stuff.
Hmm.
But I mean, I still want to show people the salads, and the fresh things because I don't think I
Yes.
show enough of them. So I just want to do a recipe book that kind of focuses on fresh eating and salads. I'm still going to have burgers and cakes and things in it, but there's just going to be a lot of salad.
Yeah, that's
But,
great.
but yeah, then I'll do that big salad, and then a lot of time I'll have something kicking around. Like honestly, I do have snacks kicking like right beside me. But I made these cookies the other day, and they're
Ooh.
raspberry chocolate chunk,
Oh,
sprouted
wow.
almonds, and a little bit of coconut flour and psyllium husk. And I just uh, cut some raw chocolate into chips. I have these sprouted almond burgers that I made.
Mm.
I mean, in the winter, like, and I didn't even really like think about it too hard, but in the winter, I think I do kind of want something a little bit grounding, after my salad. Maybe I don't just want a salad. So I'll make these burgers and things that are made out of sprouted almonds or sprouted peanuts, which I rarely actually eat. This is my first time eating peanuts in ages because I've been really just for the past year trying to cut out all the nuts that I can and not even really using seeds except for chia seeds. But
Hmm.
anyway, we got peanut burgers today. I'm gonna see how they go down. I really like Mexican food too, so I make lots of nacho platters. I don't know, I suppose I put maybe I put a little more work into my meal, my evening meal than the average vegan or non-vegan, but that's just
Mm-hmm.
how I do it. That's just how I roll. Like I like to make really delicious foods, and a lot of it's my friends, when I first got into it, my group of vegan friends who were very nurturing and very supportive, you know, and I told them, I was like, you guys, like, I can't cook, like it sucks. I can't cook. And they're like, okay, we'll help you. And I reached out though, and I think a lot of it's you have to kind of reach out. And I'm just glad that I was at a place in my life that I saw something I like and I wasn't too shy to ask them what they were doing and teach me how to cook basically. So that was a big help, right?
So good.
I guess back to what I was saying to tie it all together though, that I think that is the reason that I still kind of throw down like that in the kitchen because that's just kind of how I learned to cook. I was already young enough. I was basically just barely an adult, like 19 turning 20. So it's kind of how I learned to cook. So I don't know how to do it any other way than making these like big decadent like sandwiches and burgers.
Oh, they
But I
look
do
so incredible.
thank you. Thanks. But I mean, it makes it fun and it is a little more grounding. I think that might be why I've had so much success on it on the raw vegan lifestyle. I mean, I think it's probably just because it's awesome and it's amazing. But I
Yeah.
think that there are those times where you do crave cooked food and you're like, I want something a little more grounding, a little, more dense. I mean, you could go to potatoes and rice, but you could also kind of do what I do and it's still raw. Some of the
Yes.
stuff that I was doing maybe 5, 10 years ago was maybe kind of pushing the like too high of fat zone. And I was just kind of like dabbling in it. I was like, whatever, I'm checking it out. I'm trying it. I'm going to see how it affects me.
Yeah.
Um, and then now I've kind of like, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to eat much fats, nuts, or seeds because it does catch up with you. And, you
What's the
know,
biggest thing you notice from eating like the heavier fats? What do you notice in your body?
honestly, oddly enough, lower back pain.
Oh, interesting.
Lower back pain, adrenal fatigue. Um, yeah. And I was being a bad boy for a little bit at a certain point after the bliss part, the raw vegan bliss that I was experiencing. So after that phase in my life, I started to get into the yerba mate.
Mm.
It's kind of funny because one of my ex-girlfriends, the one that I spoke of earlier, I got mono from her basically like in the first as soon as we started dating was basically her giving me mono.
Wow.
But so I was kind of learning about raw foods. I was doing the gluten-free thing. I wasn't quite fully raw yet, but I developed a bit of a yerba mate addiction, which
Mm-hmm.
is a really pleasant beverage, a tea from Argentina, but it just makes your adrenals go like boom, 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 and it's a
Because of the
sharp mental
caffeine.
stimulant. It's the caffeine. I developed a liking for caffeine because when I had mono, and I was kind of like nursing myself back from the mono with raw foods, but my friend had introduced me to yerba mate, and I just loved it. And then I found out that you could do the same thing with raw cacao. And I was going to like big parties and big festivals and drinking like this massive gourd of yerba mate and eating cacao beans. And I was completely lit, like people like at the festivals were coming up to me and being like, you're the only person who doesn't do drugs here, but you're so lit. And I'm like, have you guys tried this stuff? But so then there was a period where my caffeine addiction kind of started going out of control because I wasn't just doing it at festivals. I wanted that like party festival vibe to be with me all the time, right? And it can't
Hmm.
be, right? And
Yeah.
that's kind of chasing things that are too good. Um, so yeah, eventually the caffeine sort of started to interfere with some of the positive benefits of the raw food lifestyle, in every way, right? Like mood, energy, and just certain things like the lower back pain. And I think, see, I started out pretty low salt and pretty low fat, but I think as I kind of moved towards the middle of my, well, I don't want to call it the middle because it's probably just the beginning third of the journey, right?
Yeah.
But as time went on, I started to introduce a little bit more fat and a little bit more desserts and, pleasing the palate, like whether it be mine, or my friends. Um, I think I went a bit overboard with the fat for a while, and now I've kind of scaled it back. I still don't do 100% salt free because I don't know. I've noticed if I keep it under a quarter teaspoon a day, it doesn't really affect me. I've had periods where I've gone salt free, like completely salt free, and then gone back to it and I don't notice a difference. But having said that, I do only use a quarter teaspoon a day or less, and that's kind of said to be like the threshold for how much you should use. I've had people get really mad at me that I use any, like any at all, or even the fact that my recipes all say optional. I've had some people say, well, any is so, and be really particular about it. But for me, I don't eat it all the time, but I do use a bit. And yeah, nowadays, basically no nuts, seeds, fats, or anything, except for these peanuts that I sprouted. I guess
Oh.
sprouted almonds in my cookies and cakes sometimes, but
Hmm.
I don't eat that very often. Usually just give them out to all my friends.
Interesting. So the we'll talk about your books later, but in your books, are they more on the high fat side?
The first one's a little higher fat.
Mm-hmm.
The second book is pretty much no fat, no
Oh,
nuts or
wow.
seeds. And then the third one is pretty much no fat, no nuts or
Nice.
seeds.
Nice.
Um, but when I say higher fat on the first one, it's not really. I mean,
Right.
certain things. I mean, most people have like a cashew sour cream, and like to me, that's like high fat, and like
Yeah.
that's like a pretty hard on your body nut. Like that I haven't been doing like since I've been cutting well, I quit caffeine for one. That was probably the best. And when I say caffeine, we're talking cacao and yerba mate, So that was a big help. And then just getting rid of the nuts and seeds because that's hard on your liver, kidney, your pancreas, your adrenals. So I just figured, like why not? I'm raw vegan. I might as well go back to feeling as good as I originally felt when I was raw vegan. So
I love
um,
it. Did you
yeah.
experience any kind of effects from giving up the caffeine? Did you notice did you have like rebound headaches or anything like that?
I had to take 3 good goes at it because it took me 3 times and I'd fail. Like the first time I was just depressed and fatigued and felt like so sad
Oh,
for like a month. I was just so sad. I knew what was going on too. I was like, I know this is because I don't have caffeine. I was like, I'm not just gonna wake up this tired and this sad for no reason. And then that was the first time. And then the second time I tried to quit, I think probably lasted about the same. And well, no, I didn't quit for a whole month. The second time I think lasted 3 days. And then the third time I quit, I just noticed some really, really like sharp acute back pain after like a thick, tall glass of like warm, brazen, like heated hot chocolate that I used to do all the time. So I used to do these like it got really bad. Like I'm opening up to you here. But so I was doing these hot chocolates, like really strong. And I mean, I guess it just kind of got out of control, right? It's a fruit, it's cacao, and you got David Wolfall out there like cacao is the best food in the world. Yeah, I'm not a follower of David Wolf, by the way, but disclaimer.
Yeah.
But you think it's natural, it's an antioxidant, but at the strength and potency that I was drinking them and like big mugs, and I'd fill them, I'd put maple, vanilla, and like maca and all sorts of good flavors in them. And yeah, they'd just be knocking my socks off. But like take one of those back and like do a few laps on the hill, and it's pretty damn good. Like, or if you're like going out or whatever to be social. But one day after the ski hill, I made a thick one. I drank it a little too quick, and it just felt like my kidney was being like torn apart from the inside. And I
Ouch.
fell down to the ground. And it's just like, boom, done, none, like no more. So that
Wow.
was basically kind of it. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing caffeine anymore. Miraculously, I didn't feel the withdrawals as bad as I did that the first time I quit caffeine. And I was just able to kind of like coast forward. I'm like, okay, no more caffeine, and I'm not eating any more like overt fats at all. And
Wow.
been good. Yeah, it's been really good. It's got me back to how I felt before I became or before I started kind of like using too much fats and things like that. Salts, I don't think ever got too out of control, but yeah, it's true what they say too much fat on a raw diet isn't really that great. It's not really that good for you.
Right. Totally.
Yeah, it just slows the absorption of other things. And, but I mean, you only live once and you gotta experiment a little bit. And I was able
Definitely.
to stay 15 years. Like I know a lot of people who don't, who there's a few people who are and who do really like who powered right through on it. But then there's some people who don't, right? And I'm just kind of
Mm-hmm.
thinking maybe is why they didn't and I could is that maybe because I make all this crazy stuff and maybe allowed myself to eat, nuts and cashews for a time. And so, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's good
I
that
think,
you listen to your body. I think that's so important.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I haven't been too strict, but I have listened to my body. I've maybe had like in the 18 years I've been raw, I think I've like tasted cooked foods or like, at least like had like a meal probably a handful of times, right?
Yeah.
So, and I mean, when I say I've been raw 18 years, yeah, there's been like those few times. I mean, once it was a bowl of borscht, I felt great. I didn't even feel like I wasn't raw. Um, Another time, I think it was like a salad with a bowl of steamed rice and yams, and I was just like, I feel lame. I was like, this isn't even that good, and I feel lame. And then, uh, and I think the third time it was this African yamwich thing that I made. I boiled a huge African yam and cut it the potato into bread slices and steamed some beans and kale from the garden and made a tahini garlic sauce and squished it together it was pretty good. I didn't feel too bad of a drop off of that, but I knew I didn't want to do it the next day. I was like, yeah, if I do this 2 days in a row, I'm not going to feel that great. And then the third time I was at a vegan restaurant, vegetarian restaurant, and something came out onto someone's table that it was like 95% raw. I just had like a cooked corn thin, like flat tortilla on the bottom. And I was like, well, I'll have that. Like, what's the cooked tortilla gonna do? And it was really disappointing. Like the flavor was so bland and it didn't even taste that good. And I felt kind of lame. So
Mm,
probably like 4 times that I've eaten cooked food and then just kind of like felt lame afterwards. So
yeah.
for me, that's why I stay raw. It's just like I don't feel as hyped and as excited, about eating cooked food. It just doesn't excite me and I don't feel as good. So it's just I just keep doing this. And then I'm always kind of looking for new things too. I never really want to like eat the same food over and over again or stay on ever on the same page. So even like just getting the bread recipe here for you guys, I've noticed that I don't even do it the same way that I did it when I was in my uh when it came out in my first ebook. It's
Yeah.
like it's not even the same now. Like I don't even do the same recipes in my latest ebook that came out a few months ago the same. I'm noticing I'm like I don't even do this the same. But it's just kind of like at least I've got that the way I did it then frozen in time, you know. It's like a
Yeah.
little screenshot of like what I'm doing or what I was doing. So it's pretty neat.
Were you always an artist? Were you always like creating? I mean, because your food is just so incredible. It's so beautiful. It's just got that wow factor. Are you an artist in other ways? Do you do art or painting or drawing?
Loved to paint. Yeah, I loved to paint and draw growing up. And I kind of stopped doing all that when I started making food. So I guess that's where I kind of, it's
Channeled
just
all that
part of me.
energy.
Yeah, part of me definitely comes out in the food. I should look at some of my old paintings and drawings to see if they look like the food that I use.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is fun. It's definitely fun. So yeah, I used to be an artist and then yeah, I just really got into feeding myself. But
Now you're a food artist, an incredible food artist.
yeah, yeah, and I guess there's this whole other side to it too, where I did have my friends kind of take me under their wing and teach me the vegan side, but then I have this whole other circle of friends who all they aren't vegan at all. Like they just eat whatever. Like they're actually like super hardcore rednecks, a lot of them, and they eat like I'm in like Alberta. It's pretty country out here. Like it's like it's nothing but farms. All Alberta is national park and farm. It's like Wyoming or Montana basically. So it's mostly ranching country and like oil production, right? So the people around here, like, there's not really a lot of vegans. Like, I was really lucky to have my little crew. That was amazing. But a lot of my friends, they just eat regular food and they're kind of super lavish redneck foodies. So there's kind of like around them, I see their stuff. They know like that's not my way, and I do it this way, and I share my food with them. And some of them, like I've turned some of them into like kind of raw foodies. I had my one friend going vegan for 2 full years, and he's like super, super like making brisket and like ribs and all this crazy stuff. I actually learned a lot from him and that kind of like influenced my barbecue series with my sunflower rib strips that are basically it's basically like a raw vegan rib and just certain barbecue sauces. Some of my steak rubs that I do were influenced by a lot of my friends who eat meat, and I try to keep an open mind. I'm like, yes, they're eating like stuff that I totally wouldn't eat, but what's the sauce made out of? Like, what are they putting on it? And what could I put? say one of the ingredients is fish, what can I put in there that's not fish? Well, seaweed or something, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really into like substituting textures and like rebuilding and reconstructing certain things. So I think that's kind of why some of my dishes come out looking a lot different. And a lot of it is that I'm up here, like I'm not down there where you are, where there's probably, like you probably know other raw vegans. Like I have a tight knit crew here that we all kind of became raw vegan together,
Mm-hmm.
but we all kind of like do things sort of similar. Like we have our own style that
Mm-hmm.
we've developed. And this is before internet and this is before even YouTube. You know, I started doing this before I even got into YouTubing things. And then I was pleasantly surprised to see the raw community on YouTube and just get recipes on YouTube. Then I started getting into it. But yeah, it's definitely the influence is definitely important.
Yeah.
Well, it's fun too, right? Like I love it. Like it's exciting to me. And then kind of where I live, because it's so remote and so kind of redneck and country out here, that I don't really get to like talk to people about this. Like I'm almost kind of suppressed, like especially around certain friends, because they're like, "Okay, Dan, don't ruin this by talking about your vegan stuff or whatever," right? So I gotta like hold my tongue while everyone talks about how good brisket is. And then when I finally do get it, like someone to talk to about it, I'm really excited. Kind of like when I went out to Vancouver, and like Vancouver's kind of like, I mean, it's like you could compare it like a comparison between like Texas and Oregon or something, right? Like Vancouver's like Oregon. I go out there and everybody's vegan, and I'm like, oh my god, you're vegan, and I'm like running around like hugging and kissing everybody because they're vegan
Oh.
and flinging to people and stuff. It's super funny, right? And they're like, oh, this guy must be from Alberta.
Let's see. I was curious because you live in such a cold environment. Do you do any of like the Wim Hof breathing, or do you ever do ice baths or go out in the snow in your shorts or anything like that?
I pretty much get frozen every time I leave the house, so I'm sort of kind of windmuffing like all day long, I think, the way I see it. I think
Yeah.
maybe there is a bit of resistance in the cold because when I'm up on the mountain, it's pretty cold up there. It's usually about 10 degrees colder up there. And when I'm up there and I'm breathing, like when my heart's pumping as hard as it can go, and I'm exerting myself as much as I can, um, usually on a really deep powder day, because you have to really work to push through the powder.
Mm-hmm.
There's the negative ions from the there's the mountain slope itself. There's negative ions from the snow coming down, and it could be really cold. It could be approaching -40, and I am sweating, and my ears are warming up. I can feel like my ears, like I can feel my heartbeat in my ears, and it just so I guess that is kind of Wim Hof. And then yeah, there's the qigong. The qigong's important. I was taught to kind of do it in the cold to withstand the cold and to kind of like build that resistance against it. I think that's kind of part of qigong training too. That's probably where Wim Hof probably gets it from. And then the monks, the Shaolin monks, that invented the style of Tai Chi and Qigong that I do, um, they have certain exercises where I guess they take like a wet blanket and then they go out in the snow and they sit cross-legged in a wet blanket and they have to melt the snow.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't really know that. I don't know that form of Qigong yet. But it's just cool knowing that you can do that and that there is that, especially on a cold day when you're working really hard and you're out of breath, you can basically put your hand right up to a window and you can kind of melt it away. It's really neat.
Yeah, that's cool. It's very cool.
So I
I've heard
figured, yeah.
Wim Hof say that
Mhm.
during some of his, when they were studying him in certain environments where the water had to be a certain temperature and he kept heating it up with his body when he was in the ice. And I just thought that was so fascinating. It just goes to show how powerful we are and how powerful our minds are.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah, it's amazing. It's just fun. It's fun to think about, and it's fun to experience, and it's fun to like strive for as well, right? We can strive for this, and
Totally. You have three amazing raw food recipe books that I want people to know about. And you're going to make a recipe for us today. So tell
Mhm.
people where they can find your recipe books. Like how would they get to you and your recipe books to buy them?
On Instagram, Enzyme.333. So the link is just right in my bio, just right at the top underneath my picture,
And I'll put links
and
down
right
below
on.
as well under this video so people can find you.
Oh, is it? Okay. Okay, yeah. Yeah. And that's basically the only place that I'm selling my ebook is through Instagram. I
Okay.
don't know, maybe I should have it on other platforms. I'd like to do a hardcover and do some maybe a certain edition of one of the books or a certain edition of one of the books with certain other bonus recipes from other books that I like and do that in hardcover. But yeah, right now it's just on Instagram. Instagram's the only social media that I really have. I have TikTok now. I don't think they let you put the link in though. So not till
Okay.
I'm
But you'll be
10,000.
enzyme.333 on TikTok as well?
No, it's raw vegan bliss on TikTok.
Okay.
Thinking of changing it, maybe changing it to enzyme on TikTok. Might be a good idea just to keep it all the way across the platform. But
Yeah.
right now on TikTok, it's raw vegan bliss.
Okay.
But yeah, Instagram enzyme.333. And so the first book, it's probably got I think it has the most recipes in it. And so I went hard on the first book. Like I went hard. Um and I put so many good different recipes. There's, I think, 5 different sandwich recipes. It's got my white bread. It's got the raw vegan cornbread, the sweet cotton candy cornbread
Wow.
recipe. It's got a lot of my favorites are in the first book. The second book is basically all of the really cool concepts and ideas that I had been working on. Some of them I had been wanting to do since like I very first became raw. And so I just kind of rounded up all those extra like I want to do it really bad recipes and put them in there. And then I like made that one way lower fat, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna do like all low fat, nut and seed free, and yeah, and then this last one was basically just more uh, exciting raw vegan nut and seed uh, free recipes. So yeah.
Very cool. I cannot wait for people to see them and to check them out because they just are awesome. So you're going
Well,
to
and
make something for us today, and I'm really excited for you to
yeah.
share.
So I'm gonna make a raw vegan fluffy white bread. This one's pretty much an instant. Well, when I say instant, um, this will only take me 4 minutes to make, and it takes maybe 2 hours in the dehydrator. It's nice and fluffy, and it's really quick and easy to make. It's only a couple ingredients. So we're going to be using the main ingredient is coconut flour. So coconut flour is just the fiber of the coconut plant. Usually it has most of the fat taken out. I think most coconut flour is between 15 and 17% fat. So you don't want to use a lot of it in recipes. It's relatively low fat, and you can get defatted coconut flour too. So that's the other cool thing. So if
Cool.
you are really worried about the fat, grab the defatted stuff. So coconut flour makes the bread really, really nice and fluffy. I use chia seed. So we're gonna be grinding this up into a powder. I use a little mini blender. And I just like small blenders because for certain things, for making small amounts of sauces, I just don't like it flying all over the big glass. So
Yeah.
for stuff like that, I use, yeah. So basically, we're gonna put a quarter cup of chia seed into the blender and turn it into a dust. I like to mill a lot of my own flours and seeds just because some things you can only get in seeds sometimes. Like for instance, if I wanted teff, for instance, here I could only get this teff seed, and I wanted teff flour, but I can just blend it or put it in a coffee grinder and make like make a flour with it. I'm really into that actually. That's kind of how I started with making my bread. That's kind of how this bread recipe evolved actually. Yeah, a friend of mine introduced me to coconut flour like 15 years ago. A lot of people don't use it because it can make recipes really, really dry. But you just need to learn how to balance it out with like something gelatinous. So that's why we're using chia seed. Anyway, I probably won't measure this because I'm really bad for not measuring things. But a quarter cup of chia seeds. And when I don't measure things, things always taste better. And that's when I like kind of discover all the great, like the wacky, crazy, really good flavors too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all a little more than the quarter. Already made a batch of bread this morning. My demo bread. So when I'm finished this, I can just pull my ready-made bread out of the dehydrator. It's ready to go. And
Awesome.
then we'll build like a quick little peanut burger. Okay, that's good enough. So yeah, quarter cup. Go over here. I don't know if you guys can still see me there.
Just a little bit in the back. You're good.
Okay, I'm just gonna blend this really good. Now it's a nice powder. Sometimes I like to knock a bit of the powder off the edge there because I don't want to waste any. So this is the funny thing in my book. I think it's 2 cups of water that I put in here, but this morning I only put a cup and a half in. But then again, a lot of it's probably I never measure, right? So
Right, right.
got something to do with it. So I mean, use your own judgment, your own intuition at home. And if it needs a little bit more water or a little bit more chia gel, like just kind of adjust it accordingly. Because I
Yeah.
find I have to with recipes anyways. And another thing, um, every brand of coconut flour is different. So some of it's defatted, some of it's got up to 17% fat. Some of it's not as fine and not as like dusty. Some of
Right.
it's gritty. I find the gritty stuff is drier and harder to work with. So
Okay.
I'm trying to mention to that to people who buy my books, just be like, oh, guess what? It's all different. So, um, but yeah, so I'm gonna put a cup and a half, and I'm using tap water, but the water is very, very pure where I live. So
Excellent.
there's no town or settlement between me and the glacier.
Nice.
And the glacier, the Bow Glacier is like 45 minutes, a 40-minute hour drive from here. So it's pretty nice. We have good
Wow.
water. There's no fluoride. They don't put fluoride and they don't put like anything. And it's like, yeah, it's probably better than a lot of people's bottled water. Really.
Yeah, that's so
But
nice.
I still drink it out of the spring. We get it from down the road. We have a really nice natural spring. I'm just gonna put this in here. I'm just gonna give it a quick stir to make sure it doesn't clump. Get all the corners because if it clumps, it's just kind of annoying. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna put another half cup. I didn't quite put all of that in to get it thicker and to get it all kind of incorporated into the water. I just give it another quick blend and turn it into a gel. The thing I like about this recipe is it's so quick and so easy. It's about as easy as making a smoothie.
Wow, I
Like,
love that.
yeah, like you're making a chia smoothie, but it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a pretty forgiving recipe too. Like if you don't do it quite right, this like the first time, it's usually pretty good anyways, and you'll usually get the hang of it. It's a little dry, then a little more chia gel, or just a little bit less time in the DI. Sometimes if I'm in a rush, sometimes I will make it a little bit drier, and then I'm like, oh, I only have to dehydrate it a little bit. Okay, so the chia gel into the bowl, and then I'm going to put my psyllium nuts. So roughly 2 tablespoons psyllium nuts. I kind of suspect that I've been putting more than 2 tablespoons in. Probably more like 3. Just because I keep on changing the way I do things. It's I don't know, keeps things ever evolving, I guess.
Yeah,
At least
absolutely. I'm always
that's
changing
what
recipes.
right. Yeah, and that's how you come up with new fun things. There's so many things
Yeah.
you can put, especially nowadays. Like all these different cultures are together. Especially in melting pot countries like Canada and the U.S. um, we have all these different foods, right? We have all these
Yeah.
different things we can combine and put together. It's kind of funny because this conversation came up in Costa Rica because my friend there was Italian. And he's like, "Oh, you're from Canada. The food there is garbage." Like, we're not just eating like we're not like it's not Great Britain. Like, come on, like, and I'm just kidding. They're English food, like England is crushing it for vegan food lately. But it's yeah, it's kind of funny. He thought that we just eat like grit and gruel. I'm like, we're not just eating gruel. Like, what do you think this is?
Oh,
But
that's
then I was
funny.
explaining, I'm like, like Canada's a melting pot. Like everybody came here from everywhere, so we're eating, slightly changed versions, Canadianized versions of, Chinese food, of Mexican food, of, Ukrainian. Like Ukrainian's a big thing over here because I guess I just found this out on TikTok the other day, but Canada has the second highest number of Ukrainian immigrants outside of Russia, outside of Ukraine and Russia. Russia has the first, but this area here is mostly colonized by not well, yeah, there's a lot of Ukraine. I wouldn't say mostly colonized by Ukrainians because we were brought over after, and there's actually an internment camp down the road that was for Ukrainians during the First World War.
Oh,
Some
wow.
people spent 50 years in that internment camp. So, but
Wow.
anyway, that's kind of trailing off getting sex. But there's a lot of Ukrainian food around here, so we're heavily influenced by um, those types of flavors. That's why I still make pierogies, cabbage rolls, and things like that. And they're all recipes that I learned from, my mother and my grandmother,
Nice.
which is really fun and really cool. That's the other fun thing, making your family classics. So this morning I only put 1 cup of this coconut flour in. So we'll see. But yeah, basically put 1 in to start, and then it's really, really easy. You just basically mix it up. And if it's too gummy and too gooey and doesn't really look too much like bread dough, add a little bit more. See, yeah, I'm gonna have to add a little bit more. But I mean, technically, I could get away with not even adding more, and it would still make good bread. It'd just be a little bit more moist.
Mm-hmm.
It depends how moist you want it to. See, I could get away with that. I should probably put a little bit more in, and you can see it. Like you can kind of tell. It'll hit that fine point where you're like, okay, yeah, it needs a little bit more, and then you'll usually overdo it at least once. Be like, okay, I'm gonna do that again.
Yeah.
So I'm just dusting it with the coconut flour. And when I first started doing this recipe, I think at first I was using flax instead of chia. And at first I was also mixing a full, like half a zucchini or a cucumber in with it.
Okay.
And the zucchini can make it really nice and give it a really good texture,
Mm-hmm.
nice and bouncy. But I just found as time went by over the years, a lot of the time, like when I get home, get off work, I just want to slam it down in the dehydrator and throw it in. And I'm already making like my own ketchup, my own burgers, like my own sauce. So I just started taking the zucchini out, and like a lot of that's because like I eat a lot of zucchini anyways. I'm not zucchini deficient,
Yeah.
so you can use flax instead. You can put zucchini or cucumber in it. It's really good. But so and then yeah, so just push it down on the dehydrated sheet. I'm just gonna move this cutting board. So this morning I'm shaped them like buns. Right now I'll probably just shape it like flat, like a flatbread. You can
Mm-hmm.
shape it in a loaf, and you can slice it in a loaf and dehydrate it individually like that. I used to do that. That's what I originally used to do. But eventually, I just found, just for more ergonomical purposes, I liked the flat kind of bread. The other thing was for like my bread to filling ratio, like the toppings ratio.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want like a big thick piece of bread, because
Right.
sometimes the thick piece of bread, it can interfere with like the layering of flavor of like how your burgers built. Like
Yep.
apparently, yeah, like the layer and the order in which you put your condiments on and layer it, like can completely change the flavor. And I didn't even really realize that. I learned that when I was working at this little vegetarian restaurant. And they're like, yeah, the reason that it's so particular is because, yeah, I guess it can change the flavor. But yeah, so I do like a thinner bread, like a thinner white bread, but that's just me. You know, you can make it as thick as you want, shape it however you want. Like I said, the ones that are already in there that I use as a demo, they're just shaped like buns. And I spiked them with a little bit of turmeric just to kind of give it that almost kind of yellowish, like fast food bun look.
Right. That's great.
Yeah, my friend Trav and I, we call it the cooked look. He's like, it's got that cooked look. I'm
Yeah.
like, look, I like it. I mean, even though it's not cooked, you know.
Psychologically, though, that really helps. I find that, like, even sometimes just I love to eat with chopsticks. And psychologically, I find that just eating with chopsticks makes the meal more enjoyable somehow.
You eat it slower because it
Yeah.
You can't just like be pitchforking it back.
Exactly.
Yeah, I find I eat a lot slower. I chew a lot slower when I eat with chopsticks.
Mm-hmm.
For a while, I was only using chopsticks actually. But it's really bad because after like 2, 3 years of only chopsticks, you go back to a fork and you poke yourself in the lips. The first couple
Yeah.
times I was like, ow, ow.
Yeah, that can be a hazard.
Yeah, so but yeah, it's definitely good to have like it's just fun. It's art, really, is what it is. And some people don't like it. Like some people in the raw food movement will like I've had people get mad at me for making burgers, and
Yeah.
especially when I made my Thanksgiving Day like the turkey, like the no
Mm-hmm.
turkey. I mean, I've never been a Thanksgiving Day like real like Thanksgiving Day enthusiast, but I mean, when it's happening and like people are making their dinner or you get invited to a thing or, the odd time I've been with my family on my Ukrainian side, and that's kind of how my Thanksgiving meals and my Christmas meals sort of evolved. And like my grandmother, she has the traditional foods that she makes: pierogies, borscht, cabbage rolls, and all this really amazing food.
Yeah.
I just started to learn how to make my own it's like my own raw pierogies. There's a few raw pierogi recipes out there, but I wasn't really super impressed by them. And then I just made my own. But the funny thing is, at Christmas, a lot of the time my plate will look identical to my grandmother's plate. And I'm like, look, Grandma, our plates look almost identical.
That's so cool.
How did you do that? But yeah, with the Thanksgiving Day recipe, I think I was just noticing how bad tofurkeys are.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, it's a cool concept. You're like, it's like a veggie burger, but it's a veggie turkey. But just they did such a poor job. Like, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this anywhere, but I hope I don't get sued. But no, it's just like I can't deal with the spongy, rubbery uh, tofurkey or no furkey or whatever. And I was
Right.
like, but you know what? I really like that flavor, that stuffing flavor, because
Right.
I had the gravy, like a vegan gravy that I had, and it had those poultry flavors in it. And I was like, oh, okay, so it's a vegan flavor. It's just sage, rosemary, thyme, and garlic. And I think the main reason I invented the no furkey was mostly just so I could make a stuffing. It's like I wanted to make a stuffing, like a vegan stuffing, so badly that
Yeah.
um, made the no furky. And then I basically just kind of made bread like this type of bread, but I like heavily flavored it with poultry seasonings and just put a bunch of good, moist, soft veggies in it, like whatever you put in a stuffing.
Right.
So my recipe is basically just this turned into stuffing with like sprouted sprouted sunflower seed Irish moss gel on the outside.
Okay.
And then for me, when I say my first book's kind of higher fat, that's kind of what I mean by higher fat. It's got like 2 cups of sunflower seeds sprouted in it or something. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and I mean that adds up.
Yeah. If you eat the whole thing, definitely, it definitely adds up. But if you're sharing it or just having it just as like a once in a while kind of thing, then not going to be too detrimental.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it's better than eating a bowl of potatoes and rice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not everybody kind of thinks that. But then again, do other people really fall back on this type of stuff that I'm doing, or do
Right.
they do potatoes and yams? I think a lot of the time it's potatoes and yams. But then again, that's why I'm kind of trying to like pump the whole "this is really fun" kind of vibe, like, and just show people how fun it can be. And then you think
Right.
about like in our grandparents' time, like the whole community, like the whole everything revolved around the kitchen. Like everyone hangs out in the kitchen.
Yes.
Like there's a reason for it in our DNA, to be huddled around that kitchen, and that's where all the life is and all the fun is. So if we could
Mm-hmm.
kind of put that life back in the kitchen, when my grandparents got here, like they came over from the Ukraine and like around the turn of the century, and it was 40 below. There was no electricity here. There was no central, there was no heating. They lived in mud houses and they grew everything. They tilled the land. They like turned the first soil up on the prairie, and they grew beets, they grew cabbage, a lot of beets and cabbage. Brought things like dandelions for survival, right? They didn't have it easy, right? There was no quick fix, right? There was no just like, oh, we're gonna, here's my box of Kraft dinner or whatever, right? So it was like hard work to survive, and there was just like so much work put into food, and I don't know, I think we need to bring that back, like personally. Okay, so
Absolutely.
this goes into the dehydrator, and I've been dehydrating everything at a ridiculously low temperature lately. So most people probably already know this, but some of your enzymes break down at 105 degrees. So some of them are good up until 120, but I'm just gonna keep my dehydrator at 105 just to be safe. So I've got these burger buns that I had going from before.
Wow.
So we're just gonna put together a quick little sandwich. And I was noticing I didn't have any dates to make ketchup, and I didn't pre-make a sauce. So I'm just gonna give this a quick rinse. I'm just gonna make a really fast kind of ketchup type sauce,
Awesome.
tomato sauce, basically just a spicy tomato sauce. Normally I put dates in it because it gives it a better consistency. So I conveniently have this handful of sun-dried tomatoes here. These are just gorgeous sun-dried tomatoes. I dehydrate my own, but they're the
Nice.
orange heirloom,
Wow.
different colors. Anyway, I hope I got enough. And I'm gonna put some chili flakes in just to add more volume so it blends better. It's gonna burn my mouth off, but I like that. So a bunch of chili flakes. Should be enough. Should be really spicy. Maybe I should put a jalapeno in it. Yeah, I'm just gonna put some chops. I like to use ceramic blades because I've been told it keeps the electrical aura of the vegetable or fruit that they
Oh,
make.
interesting.
Yeah, and it doesn't oxidize, so it won't bruise your lettuce, and it doesn't bruise things the same way. It takes
Nice.
longer for the bruise to set in. That's scientifically proven. I think that the aura thing in it is scientifically proven too. I think the second you use metal on it, I don't know how much that affects us. Like I don't notice like a super energy boost when I
Mm-hmm.
do it, but it's pretty cool. I just like it.
Yeah.
If not for the simple fact that it doesn't oxidize my veggies.
And what is this you're cutting? Is that garlic?
Yeah, this is garlic,
Okay.
some Russian garlic, and I'm just gonna put it in my ketchup, sriracha. This is basically gonna be a sriracha ketchup. So sun-dried tomato, chili. I might put a little bit of jalapeno in it, just because I don't really have a lot of sun-dried tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing I was noticing before I came on here. I was lacking in dates, and I probably didn't have time to go grab them. So, yeah, probably enough jalapeno. Probably doesn't really even need the jalapeno. With a little shot of lime juice in there. A little pinch of sea salt. little bit of water. And yeah, I wouldn't use tap water in any other town but Bam. Yeah, it should be good. So bear with me. I might have to blend this for a little while.
No problem. I can always edit it out. People are going to be probably curious. Do you use any supplements? Do you take any type of supplementation?
I experimented with some supplementation a couple of years ago. So most of the time I've been vegan and raw vegan, I haven't. I got tested, I think, 4 years into being vegan, 4 or 5 years into being vegan, maybe a few years after I became raw. And she said that it was like my blood was awesomely perfect. She was like, it's perfect. And then I got tested 8 years later, and they're saying you're low in vitamin C. And I thought, fair enough. I don't really eat a lot of oranges. Out of all the fruits that I eat, I always go towards the kind of sweeter, creamier, like banana type other things. Those are pretty high in vitamin C. I eat a lot of mangoes, but you can never eat enough mangoes.
Right.
Yeah, but the second time they said low in vitamin C. I haven't been tested since, but a couple of years ago, I started working at an organic grocery store. So the health and body section were always giving us free stuff. The staff giveaway bin was phenomenal. All sorts of raw vegan stuff there too. Not even
Cool.
things that they get sent demos or things that they were thinking about carrying. That here, you take it home, Dan. You're raw vegan. So when I was working there, I'd find vegan vitamin B12 in liquid form, liquid vegan vitamin D, liquid K2, and then things that are not really supplements that are kind of supplementy, like moringa powder. I was hitting that like hard. Maca, I was doing maca. There was a green powdered plant called duckweed or water lentil, which
Okay.
is like the most complete amino acid profile that you can get. And
Interesting.
just complete powerhouse, complete like vegan powerhouse. They discontinued it too. Like they thought they could try and make it better, but as you can see there, it's just green powdered duckweed with an insane like amino acid profile, just through the roof. Like my coworkers who were bodybuilders were like mind blown when they saw this. They're like,
Wow.
ours only has 4 amino acids in it. And we paid $50 and it's got like bad chemicals in it. Like that one for sure. But that's a powdered plant. Like it's not really a supplement, right? Like, and yeah, like I'm open to supplements. I don't really take them, but sometimes it's a fine line between like supplement and food, right?
Yeah.
Like I do take this blue magic, but it's to make my icings all colored. But it's got a ton of benefits. And I guess yes, it is taken out of the lake and they dried it, but it's basically a food, right? And
Right.
the vitamin C that I was taking from the grocery store there, it was camu camu.
Oh
So it's
yeah.
just camu camu powder. So it's a fruit. It's a
Right.
vitamin. So I think there's kind of a fine line between fruits and vitamins. And even the vitamin K2 that we sold there, people were asking, is this vegan? Isn't it? I researched it. Turns out that most of the companies use vegan K2 and it's grown on tempeh or natto.
Okay.
It's a little more expensive. It's quite a bit more expensive to extract it from dairy. I think some companies do just so they can say that they do, but it's more expensive. And I mean, vitamin B12, it's just a bacteria. So it's a bacteria that either holds on to a cobalt molecule or a cyanide molecule or a methylose molecule. But I mean, there are like certain supplements like that I guess you could kind of consider a supplement. But to me, a supplement is just kind of food because you're ingesting it. It's just a micronutrient,
Right.
specifically isolated micronutrient. And I don't really have any problems with it. I don't really supplement though. But for about a year I did because I was at Nutters and I had everything. And the thing is, like, I think I had a really good year. Like I was skating really well, I was snowboarding really well, and that's kind of how I gauged like
How
how
you're
I'm
doing.
doing,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm ingesting. It's hard for me to tell if they were really doing me any good though, because yes, I did feel extra healthy that year, but I'm working at an organic grocery store. I'm like getting all this free extra stuff. Like I got turned on to that duckweed for free. Like my first tub was free. They're like, here, you have to sample it because you're the only vegan. Like the duckweed, I think made the biggest difference out of all of the supplements that I took, which isn't a supplement. It's a powder. It's a
Yeah.
Some people are just so dead set against anything like that. They're like, oh my god, it's powder. I'm like, powdered broccoli. They're like, it's powder. And I'm like, powder. It's like, yeah, but is it duckweed? Is it water lentil? Like, I would munch back fresh water lentil, but I'd probably like a scoop of that water lentil would probably be like a whole salad full of water lentil. Right? So I think supplementing, like, I'm open to it. I think it's cool. Like, I think it's ultimately the goal is to be getting it from your food. And you don't want to supplement. And if your supplements are food sources, like say it's maca, well, that's a root, that's a food. Camu camu resin, like that's camu camu. And I think that our vitamins like metabolize and absorb better when in the fruits and vegetables. And say a fruit like juice is like great. It's kind of like a
Right.
vitamin, right? And I
Right.
think it's cool.
Yeah,
So
I take Daily Green Boost, which is the barley grass juice powder, and it's super high in so many nutrients. I think that is really great. It's just powdered barley grass. So it's,
yeah, it's grass. It's a vegetable. It's
yeah,
raw food. It's Some people think it's supplements, but I mean it's kind of a fine line.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I blended this together. It's made a nice sauce. I could probably blend it for longer, but then it'll take forever to taste it. That is really, really freaking good.
Awesome.
Really, really spicy. But it's just a sauce for the burger. I mean, I'm actually really stoked on this sauce. I love making sauces, making foods. You always find something that tastes different. I tend to put a lot of vegetables, like a lot of like veggie matter on my sandwiches and my burgers. I think that's why they're always so high. So I think
Yeah.
it might look a little bit like insane or out of hand to some people when they're looking on my account. They're like, "Oh, his burgers like this. Like, how did he even eat it?" But I do. I eat it. I eat them. Yeah, I'm basically just slicing these up for color. I don't think the burger really needs more pepper on it, but I have a tendency to just make things look as beautiful as they can.
I love that.
Really, the vegetables that are mainly nourishing us, it's that high water content that's going to digest easier and more quickly, and our body's just going to absorb that nutrients better. So
Absolutely.
it's like boom, super high. We're vegans, right? We're vegetarians, but we're vegetarians, right? We're
Yes.
actually. And then I'm gonna cut some iceberg lettuce. Try and get a nice, like, solid little puck of it. I'm gonna see if I can take a picture of this burger for Instagram.
Cool.
So today I was too lazy to make mustard. I generally make my own mustard, but this mustard, so this is a mustard company out of Quebec, and this is raw and unpasteurized mustard.
Wow.
They have a few different flavors. They have the smooth mustard too, but I mean it tastes pretty similar to the mustard that I make, which is pretty sweet. But like most mustard's pretty simple. Even like the some of the bottled pasteurized mustard, if you look at organic mustard, it's mustard seed, turmeric, apple cider vinegar and sea salt. That's all it is.
And
That's all
spices.
mustard. So I mean, even if someone was gonna cut corners and say they're making burgers and they're too lazy to make the mustard, and they grabbed like a, one of those little yellow bottles of ready-made like mustard or whatever,
Yeah.
organic mustard, it's basically pretty much what I put in my mustard too. And I
Mm-hmm.
get it, like, yeah, we're raw vegans, you don't want to heat things or cook things. But when it's like a little mustard seed, like it's a cooked mustard seed, it's chances are your body's probably not gonna like react to it or develop
Right.
an immune system response. I've
Right.
had some people say they even react to paprika, smoked paprika and things like that.
Interesting.
That's a friend of mine who I have with an autoimmune disorder who's become raw. But I mean, for the average person, pasteurized mustard isn't going to kill them. But this stuff's raw, which is awesome. And it's really, really awesome mustard too. The Grey Poupon of vegan mustard. So this is a sprouted peanut burger. So basically, what all this is, I can basically explain the recipe to you guys in 2 seconds here. So it's about a cup of these sprouted organic redskin peanuts, 5 small dates, chili flakes. I put a couple squirts of lime juice in there, and a little bit of sea salt. And then I just blended it in the food processor, made a patty out of it. So this is a really, really easy, quick, raw vegan burger.
Wow. And how long did you dehydrate it?
This did not go for very long, probably 2 or 3 hours on each side.
Wow. Okay.
It went pretty quick. I was gonna put them back in the dehydrator, but they firmed up pretty nice in the fridge. Yeah,
It looks
but these
really good.
are really, really tasty. So there's a little bit of garlic in there. I might have forgotten to mention there's garlic in it. It basically tastes like it's a peanut patty that tastes like sriracha or chili sauce, chili garlic.
Wow.
So it's probably going to be really, really good. I'm going to keep some of these and maybe make a few different flavors. Maybe I'll make like a teriyaki,
Nice.
Asian flavors. But I was in a rush, so I just grabbed this raw mustard because it's there and it's raw. I'm just so stoked that it's raw. I actually called the company and talked to them. I was like, "Is it pasteurized?" They're like, "All of our products are cold pressed and unpasteurized."
That's so cool. You'll have to send me a link to their website so I can post it down below in case people want to get it.
Yeah, yeah, I will definitely. They have an Instagram account too, actually.
Oh, cool.
It's Mason or Faye or something like that. I know
Mm-hmm.
I don't speak French, but Orphe with an accent on that one E, and
Mm-hmm.
then no accent on that. I'm probably butchering it. There's probably French people out there cursing me right now. Yeah, I'm just gonna hustle here. Sometimes I can just talk and talk and talk, and then I'm like not making dinner. And I think that's all I'm going to put on here. Just some lettuce, tomato, mustard, and this sweet hot chili sauce. Put a little mustard on bottom there. And sometimes I go a little bit more elaborate with my colors, just different vegetables. This one's kind of going to look more like your traditional basic hamburger type thing. There, a bit of mustard on there. Nice. Peppers on there. Color. The color is good because it makes the like your photos look good. It makes your food look good. But every
Yeah.
color is a vitamin or a nutrient, and it's also variety. Yeah, so this will be my first time in almost a year eating peanuts. Not that I really eat peanuts a lot. And of course, these are sprouted peanuts. So sprouting and activating things makes them a little bit healthier. And then there's also the fact that peanuts are not a nut. Peanuts are a
Right.
leggy. Organic peanuts are actually where it's at. It's like from a culinary perspective, like I don't know if eating peanuts is like the healthiest thing to eat in the world, but sprouted peanuts and like organic peanuts, and you can get jungle peanuts too. Have you seen the jungle peanuts?
I've seen those, yes.
They're so awesome. I will. My friend sells them at his super store. I'm not really like a super food obsessed person. I'm more like we're vegans, we're raw vegan. I don't need the magic goji berry to,
Right.
take my problems away magically. And then a lot of these people go back to like animal foods and colostums, right? And get
Yeah.
too stoked on like the cacao beans, the goji berries. So let's see here. Hopefully I don't put too much of this on at once. It's a little thicker than I wanted it to be. I just didn't want to take forever blending it. It's more of like your traditional like Chinese food restaurant chili garlic sauce. Normally I'd put dates into it and make it more of like a ketchup consistency. This one doesn't turn out perfectly. I'm just gonna make another one. Just take pictures of that.
Wow. That's beautiful.
I don't know if I might be able to pull it into some better light.
I love it. The sauce is dripping down the side. It looks so good.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, that's great. Amazing creation.
Okay, that's better lighting.
It's beautiful.
Well, that was fun.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh my gosh.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's fun making food with people. I've noticed even if it's on a live, like it's just that whole atmosphere and energy of having people in the kitchen, your friends in the kitchen, and family in the kitchen, right? We used to
Yes,
gather around as families and friends, and
absolutely.
you know, we got to keep that, right? So it's
Definitely.
fun.
So good. Well, it was so nice chatting with you. It was great to hear your experiences and your stories, and your recipes seriously are just absolutely amazing. The photos are phenomenal, and I think your recipe books will help so many people to stay on the raw path. Like you said, it's so much better than going to the animal products and eating certain things that could be far worse, and you're making your stuff so healthy. It's really, really cool. So thank you so much for what you do and just for being a light in this world. I love it.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun. I just really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'll put all your links below, your links to your Instagram and to your books and everything so that people can find them really easily.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Oh, you're welcome. It was really fun. Great to meet you. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and check out Daniel's Instagram. It's Enzyme.333 for more of his amazing creations. So that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.